Welcome to It Takes Two. I'm Blair.
I'm Chris.
And today we're taking a deeper dive into our thoughts about the last episode of Love and Marriage Detroit.
Dude, you know what's funny, Blair?
What's that?
Matter of fact, subscribe, like, share, comment, all the above. You know what's funny, Blair?
All right, what's up?
When I was watching the episode for the first time, because I watched it twice, right? I was like, first of all, this still season 2? And then I was like, I don't know if Detroit's going to make it, right? I was like, I don't know if Detroit gonna make it because the type of drama that they have is kind of like flat. It's kind of like in the sense of, oh, you was arguing during my anniversary. You get what I'm saying? I'm like, how are y'all supposed to compete with, or at least stay afloat with Huntsville and things of that nature? But then when I watched it the second time, I was like, oh, there's a lot of meat on the bone with this episode. And I think the undertone or even the overtone of this episode was parenting, right?
Yeah.
If you go through if you take away the Bravo dinner and things of that nature, you go through the whole Brandon and Christina.
Yep.
Parenting with him coming back to the house, right? With Anthony and his wife, I forgot her name. LaToya, Dr. LaToya, parenting, right? And then of course, you got Kolby and you have Russell, parenting, right? And I want to start there. Let's start with Kolby and Russell, right? Mm-hmm. I said something in my last review, which I'm not ashamed to say, because I said off top that, hey, I want to go first just in case I'm wrong, and y'all can chime in, right? So I want y'all to chime in again. I think a lot of people are hearing things that I did not say.
Okay.
Right? And I just want to go off of the things that I didn't say. Mm-hmm. I didn't say her job as a mother is not important. I didn't say that she have to do everything since Russell retired her, and then she have to basically only worry about the potty train, right? One thing I did say was I don't think her being home with the kid gives her energy and fulfills her, and maybe she needs to go to work, right? I did say that because the question that I initially started off with was, do you hate being a full-time mom in the occupational sense of, hey, I retired you, so you have to take care of the kid 24/7, right? In the comments, I read some comments. I love all the comments. One comment said, which I really like, and I wish I can remember you, but I see your face, right? She said, look, I tried that stay-at-home thing for 3 months, and then I told my man, I'm going back to work, right? Because she knew that, hey, in the whole imaginary sense, is of course I'm gonna be home, take care of my kid, but there is something to, hey, I need a break. I need to be around society and things like that. Other adults. And guess what? It may not be for me in the occupational sense to be home with the kid 24/7 as the full-time caretaker. That does not mean that if you have a job that you're not a full-time mom. That does not mean if you have an au pair that you're still not the full-time mom. I'm talking about in the occupational sense of basically you're working for the family, right? So here's one thing I want to touch on with the whole Kolby and Russell thing. I want to get on Russell first, right? Because I want y'all to hear this. I think Russell is operating from a selfish point of view, but in a way that I don't think he sees it as selfish. I think society has told us as men that we are supposed to take care of the household. That basically our goal as men is to work, and basically the dream is I'm supposed to retire my wife, I'm supposed to pay all the bills in the house, and I'm supposed to basically be the muscle of the house, right? I think Russell is operating in that whole template of I am the man of the house, especially since he went to go get his pastoral license, so there's some type of structure that I think he's following that's been out before him. You are the man of the house, you're supposed to take care of the bills, and I think he sees retiring his wife as a badge of honor, but for himself. That's where I think the selfishness come from, the blind side that he don't even see, that him retiring his wife is really for him to say, hey, I retired my wife, and my wife can be home and take care of the kids. Do you have anything to say on that alone?
Yeah, I wouldn't put selfish on it.
Why not selfish?
Because I think everything he's doing for his family.
Ooh, okay.
And I think that when he or him and Kolby got together. We don't know these people, but this is just how I picture it in my head. When they got together and they talked about their dreams and ambitions as a family and as a couple, one of Kolby's main things was that she wanted to be an entrepreneur, social media. She didn't want to have to do a 9-to-5. And I think Russell wanted to make sure that she was in a position to go after what she wanted, as well as be in a position to go after what he wanted.
That's fair.
And I think that by him retiring her, so to speak, so that way she has the freedom that she wants in life, is something that he purposely did so they can reach their goal that they wanted as a family. Now, I think when kids get brought into the equation, because you have the free time that I've, freed you up to have, then that means that more of that burden is going to be on you. But I think that it just feels like more, I'm not going to say a burden necessary to Kolby, but she feels more of the weight of the responsibility because he is out there providing the financial structure and the everything for the family, so that way whatever she does as far as her work, it's not supporting the family the way that the work that Russell is doing. And so I think that everything he's doing is for his family, and because she has the responsibility of the kid, it can look a little bit different now that she has more responsibility than she initially had when she had the freedom.
The reason why I say selfish, and maybe selfish is too harsh, but I'm gonna go with selfish. He signed up to go to some type of pastoral school and things like that to become a pastor. Didn't really have a conversation with her about it, right? And she did not like that, but she didn't like it based off of her past trauma, because she was a PK, and she's like,
she didn't want him to be a pastor.
And the whole time, and one thing that, and mind you, we watched every season and every episode, even though there's only 2. It feel like there's 4, right? But we watched every episode. One thing that she said in the episode previously, not the most recent one, but in this past season that happened last year, was that I feel like as a family, we get the brunt of you. We don't get the fullness of you because you're so open with everybody. You put on your cape and you got to be Clark Kent to everybody else, and we kind of get basically the brunt of you. And he was like, where did that come from? I think that comes from her whole experience of being a PK, right? To where she basically see how her mother and father operated, and how the father was more active in the ministry and not as active in the house, and things had to basically fix itself eventually, if it ever did, right? And I think she sees, like, I don't want to be, you know how some daughters say about their mom, I don't want to be like my mom, in the sense of like, I'm the last one to get filled when you got to fill all your people. You get what I'm saying? But Russell, as far as I know, Russell didn't want to start a church. You get what I'm saying? At least not yet. Then he went on to basically invest into this gym and own this gym without another serious conversation with Kolby. So even though the family may benefit from him, there is no collaboration and conversation, right? Of, hey, these are the moves we're going to do. So in a way, it does come off as selfish. That's so that's why I was calling him selfish.
And I will say that I think that he could do better with his communication. I think a lot of guys can do better with their communication because, I think he's moving in the basically the mindset of, I'm going to go out here and hustle and get it however I can, without realizing that when you go out, that takes a piece away from the family. And I think that the only thing is that there needs to be a middle ground, because I feel like Kolby doesn't, I'm not going to say she doesn't realize that, but I think that the more responsibility that's put on her shoulders, I think that the more that she wants to share the weight with Russell without really acknowledging all that he's doing to make sure that they're in a position to where she doesn't have to go to work. You know? And so I think that there needs to be, of course, a middle ground to where they both feel supported and heard in the relationship. And that way that Kolby, she doesn't feel like she's, a workhorse in the house, always doing things and never really getting her cup filled up by her husband. But I think that she has to know there is a level of sacrifice that comes with one person being the only person bringing in money really for the household. And there is a sacrifice
100%. And also, I also want to touch on the whole fact of this, kind of like a parallel in a way. Do you remember Love and Marriage Huntsville, where Tisha wanted to go back to work, and that's when Marcel, we had an agreement. Now, mind you, their children wasn't little as Kolby newborn is, and as the newborn is 3, I think, and then she's pregnant again. So I do want to give Kolby bail to get out of jail, of everything that she's feeling for the first time.
Yeah.
So everything feels like a lot because...
And everything is, I think all of her feelings are valid.
Yeah. Right? All of it is valid. Because it's her feelings, right? And I think this is actually the time right now compared to the Marcel and Tisha thing, to where the kids is actually old enough and things of that nature. And then he's like, hold on, wait a minute. You want to go back on what we agreed on? And like, our kid's like 14, 15. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Compared to now where the baby's 3 and she's pregnant again. I think there needs to be hey, I thought this is what I wanted, but I think I can't do this.
And there needs to be room for pivoting.
Yes.
I think that for Russell and for Kolby, I think their pivot was to get an au pair. And hopefully that comes in and relieves some of the pressure off of her, so she feels like she has a better handle on things at the home. Mm-hmm. But I mean, we've yet to see that. There's something that they have in the works, but we don't know if that's really going to fix the problem.
And truth be told, I don't think an au pair is needed. As somebody who's watching from my couch and don't know these people personally.
Right.
I really think daycare is needed, because I think, number one, daycare gives you a daily time of that slotted away to where it's like you're going to be with this daycare school for 4 to 5 hours and things of that nature. They also help with potty training. So some of the things that she's handling by herself, she can still be retired. Right, and still handle, like, you know what, I'm gonna drop the 3-year-old, and then on top of that, the 3-year-old need to socialize with other kids anyway. So eventually, like, even if you have the au pair or not, I think the 3-year-old will be going to school eventually. You know, but I will say this though. Now I gotta talk about Kolby, because this is
before you move on.
Go ahead.
I do want to say, and maybe this might be a little bit of a hot take, but I think that sometimes, and I'm not a parent, but hopefully I will become a parent, one day if we're blessed to have that happen. But I do think that sometimes the idea of wanting a child is very different than having a child.
Okay.
And I think that with Russell and Kolby saying that they wanted to have, a big family and growing their family, I think that after her first child, she may have realized this parenting thing is hard.
Yeah.
I'm literally in the hood of parenthood right now. Yeah. On top of that, I'm pregnant, dealing with all these hormones. He's talking about he wanted to try for a boy.
Yeah.
I think that there might be something in Kolby that's just like, I don't think I want to be having all these kids,
Yeah, maybe.
And I think that when you kind of come to that realization that, maybe we can be two and done, and your partner is just kind of like, that's not what we agreed on, because she is dealing with all the full-time responsibility of having the children.
Yeah.
Even if it was daycare, even if it was an au pair or whatever the case may be, I think that Kolby wanted her freedom. And I think that having children limited her amount of freedom.
Did I say you have to grow up then? Be like that's the truth of the matter is, like, here's my thing. I am a big believer of, hey, after we have the first kid, how's your body?
Yeah.
How's your mental?
How we managing?
Exactly. You get what I'm saying? Because you're not my cow that I'm just going to milk whenever I want until I get a boy. You know what I mean? So I do hope that they are having conversations about, hey, you may not get this boy. You get what I'm saying? Like, 2 is what I can handle. But I want to talk on Kolby just for a second. Even though I gave her bail out of jail, I'm not going to give her bail out of jail with this, right? Based off what we've seen on the show, I'm only going by the characters that they portray on the show. I do think it will help if Kolby does change her attitude about certain things. Her own mama said it. Like this is not something that I'm picking on, that I'm being insensitive or that I'm not listening. Here's the thing about it. Russell wants a boy. It's very evident Russell wants a boy. That still doesn't mean that when he see his girl, his little baby girl walking around, that he don't pick her up and be nice to her. So it's like, I think there's something to this whole thing of, oh my goodness, you are basically the fun dad, and you are basically like, you don't reinforce anything. This is a fact, because I seen it and I talked to people who lived it, right? There is a such thing as, hey, the way your parenting style, mama or daddy, you kind of forced me to kind of be the nice one, because you're already yelling and you're already here all the time. So you already put me in a corner to where I have to balance you out because you already up here. So if Kolby is very frustrated with the potty training, and I see that she's frustrated, or she's frustrated with just the parenting of the whole, like, this is new to me, it's a lot, right? I don't think it will serve the house if Russell come in and he's not at least taking some levity off and basically like, hey, baby girl, how's everything? I think depending what your parenting style is, it kind of forces the other parent to basically be like, how can I basically fit in and get in here? How do you feel about what I said right there?
I think that's fair, but then I think that's where they need to have a conversation about what it looks like for Russell to come in and enforce the structure that Kolby has implemented. You know, I think that, you know, when we saw that short clip and all we really heard is that he doesn't discipline her, it's kind of hard to see what she means by that when we're in the context of potty training, because I'm not really sure how you would discipline a child for not using the bathroom. You know, it's kind of like a correction, redirection type of thing, I would assume. And what a lot of our commenters were saying as well, like discipline is kind of harsh for potty training.
Yeah, but kind of you kind of want some reinforcement,
right?
Though. Yeah.
But you want reinforcement, and you do want to have some type of structure. And so maybe that's something that, you know, they need to discuss or maybe go to counseling, because I think that there is a wall up to where Russell is kind of tired of hearing Kolby talk about all the issues, to where I think at some point he might be a little bit deaf to what she's talking about. And
not might.
Yeah.
He is.
And I think that after a while, like if you're expressing yourself and your partner is starting to get tired of hearing you talk about it, then you need a third party to come in to try to clean up and clarify what it is that your needs are. But you also need to be realistic about the status of you guys as family. If you have a 3-year-old, you're pregnant, and your husband is just starting his business, you're gonna have to pick up the slack for the family. But I also think that Russell, when he comes home, he needs to know where he needs to plug and play in order to make sure she's supported. If when he comes home, okay, Kolby, get a nap, or, you know, go ahead and work on your social media stuff, and so that way, you know, I can do X, Y, and Z, or maybe letting the cutoff time be 7 p.m. instead of being at the place till midnight painting, doing all this type of stuff. Like maybe he needs to implement a cutoff day to his days, so that way he can be, you know, a presence in his household. So there has to be some type of middle ground.
Listen, and someone that I talked to personally about this is that I think her husband approached her and said, hey, you need to actually fall back with how you address the kids. Because you are a little too hot. You are a little bit too, your flame is a little too high. And it kind of leads me to not be able to discipline the kids, because if I come in and you're already yelling, it kind of puts me in a position where I have to be good cop. Right. So that's where I got my example from. Also, I think there's a little nuance here that I want to touch on that I think a lot of people kind of don't respect. Right. This is not a gender war. Right. I just want to say this, because I hear a lot of people saying when Russell go to work, he gets a break. Right. Listen here. I am not putting down full-time mothers as an occupation in the house. That's a job. Right. Also, what Russell does is not fun. Right. I know it looks that way because he's doing his dream job and things of that nature, to where like something that he's passionate about. And I know when people say, whenever you're doing something you're passionate about, you don't ever work a day in your life. But at the end of the day, the weight of their family is on him as well. Right. Listen here. He have to pay for 3 other heads: his wife, the 3-year-old, and the new coming baby. Right. And on top of that, I do not want to, like I said, I am not taking away the fact that the mother does a great job, and what she does is a 24/7 job as well. But also, let's not uplift one position and put down the other one. As important as the mother position is, the father, especially in Russell's position, is important too, when he's the one bringing in the financial gain to the house. So I think there needs to be, in my opinion, to your point, a discussion again. I think Kolby likes working, right? I think Kolby wants to be the type to where it's like, you know what? I want to do my social media stuff too, like your point. I don't want to be a full-time caretaker. And I think at that point, they need to say, okay, they need to put a time limit on this and be like, okay, once you give birth and once your body recovered and, you know, once the new baby is 1 or 2 and things like that, we will reconvene. And I think there's something too, if I was to speak from a guy perspective, of, it's not jealousy, but it's something to, I think Russell feels like, if I was to take an educated guess, I think he's looking at his wife like, I don't get to opt out and say, I don't feel like going to work. I don't get to opt out and say that, you know what, I'm having a hard time and things like that, because you know what? I have to bring money in for the whole house. You know what I mean? So I think in some ways this can become a dangerous environment only because of this. If I always have to listen to your complaining, then that never leaves room for me to actually like take off some steam and things like that. If I always got to serve you, what if I had a hard day, but I come home and then you're over here talking about you did this, you did that, you did this, and this could be for both parties. So I think there just needs to be a conversation to where it's like, you know what, this is not working for me. I'm drowning. Can you help me? And in that instance, I think Russell needs to listen to his wife.
Yeah.
Because my thing is, if I'm watching from the TV and I don't know these people and I see Kolby is drowning, I think Russell sees it too. But I think Russell is like...
And I think his answer is the au pair. Because I got to go to work, Kolby.
Yeah. I have to go to work. I can't take the day off.
Yeah.
Let's go on to our next couple, right? Let's talk about Brandon and Christina.
Yeah.
Right? How do you feel about the whole, like, you know, Christina, Brandon, they're back together, and the first conversation they had was with the kids. How do you feel about Daddy being here? How did you feel about Daddy not being here? Hold on, did I say the same thing twice?
Being here and not being here.
Okay, so I said it differently. I did like the conversation because I feel like once the kids is able to talk and able to actually recognize your presence and not your presence, I think there needs to be a conversation, and I think Brandon needs to have a conversation with the family as well to be like, you know what? Whatever happened, I left y'all girls to fend for yourselves and things like that. And I don't want to ever put y'all in a position to where now y'all have to build new structures and things of that nature without me. And I think it was a good conversation. And we kind of see Christina kind of on the opposite of Kolby because her kids are older in some ways. So she kind of got like a hang of it. What is your thoughts on like that scene?
Yeah, I mean, I was happy that they all sat down as a family because, I mean, it is a big transition to have your father leave the house and then for him to come back. And a lot of times kids don't know what's going on. The adults don't take the time to actually sit down and talk to them. So I'm glad that they had a chance to talk and express how they felt about the situation so that way they can be heard, you know? And more so, I guess, talking about the structure of their household and how Christina was able to build the structure, but Brandon coming in and kind of allowing there to be a little bit more relaxation in the household. I think that there is room for both. I think that having a too strict of a household breeds sneaky children.
Okay. Is somebody speaking from experience?
No, no, because I had a relaxed household, so I didn't have to be sneaky. I just talked to my parents.
Okay.
But I do think having a super strict militant household breeds sneaky children.
Yeah.
I think that you need to have a home where everyone feels comfortable. But I also feel like, Brandon, you have to do your equal share in being a parent in the household and not just somebody who comes in to have a good time and then goes to work.
Yeah.
You know, like leaving his
clothes?
His laundry in the middle of the floor, or leaving the kitchen any kind of way after he, plays with the daughters and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, like, I'm not saying like, okay, like immediately once you're done, you guys need to hurry up and clean up. But I'm just kind of like, before the day is over, just make sure you straighten up, so that way it's clean for when Christina has to go in and cook or whatever she has to do. Like, just be mindful of each other in that way. So
I think the only dangerous part that I would say about them too, you don't want to create a normality to where it's like, okay, we are operating without Daddy, and things are basically going along as if like basically smoothly. You know what I'm saying? So I like the fact that he's back home. I hope that they do work on their marriage to where, therapy, don't stop the therapy. Don't close the lines of communication. Reconvene and basically be like, okay, how do you want the house to run? And then y'all can basically start rebuilding your marriage and your family.
But I think the big thing about that too, because a lot of the stuff that they were talking about is like Brandon needing to be in a position to lead. Yeah. And I think that this also goes to a lot of women. When you're choosing your partner, choose somebody who leads. Where that's in them. And they got pregnant, and that's when they got married and all that type of stuff. And it seems like their relationship, they had another daughter, they were able to like grow something beautiful from probably the rocky start. Yeah. But I do think that if you're in a position to where you can really try to vet the person you want to spend your life with, because I mean, who would want to be like in your 40s or late 30s, however old they are, and trying to get your husband to lead because he just doesn't have it in him? Even going back to his mother's house, like his mom is just kind of like, he's lazy, like he doesn't do anything. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, and I think that having a good spouse and partner and somebody that you love and care for can really bring out a lot of those qualities in you. So I'm not saying it's like a lost cause in any type of way, but I will say, like, vet your people carefully. And if people change over time, that's another situation. But going into it, knowing that he really just does not have this skill set, that's going to be an uphill battle.
But I think you're wrong only in this aspect. Number one, they was unique because they got married pretty fast. Yeah. Right. Number two, I don't think they really knew each other. I think they got to learn each other when they was already married. Yeah. Because I think it was him who was looking at one of the bridesmaids' booty or something like that. Oh,
yeah. No, it's not that they were pregnant. He wanted to hurry up and marry her because she wasn't going to have sex with him without getting married. Exactly. Yeah. And that's wild.
Yeah. Come on now. Right? Yeah. So he already was looking at somebody's booty on the wedding day. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And also, I think there's something to when it comes to leading and things of that nature. I think Brandon has qualities to lead when he wants to lead in the areas that he wants to lead.
Yeah, when it comes to his business and his music, he has no issue leading, putting things together, whatever the case may be. Exactly. But he might take, backseat in the house because he's like, you got it, Christina.
It's recreational incompetence. He knows how to lead, right? Because he's a business owner. Yeah, you know what I mean? True. So the thing about it is, which we are seeing, which I don't want Russell to go down this slope, but it just seems like there's a traditional type of standard when it comes to man and woman roles of, hey,
especially in this cast,
especially with this cast, Brandon's like, I work, you take care of the kids. Yeah. Russell's basically almost on that slope of, I retired you, right? That's a nice way of saying it, of like, I retired you, but basically you're gonna birth my kids. And I'm gonna take care of all the bills, but we gonna keep having kids, and you gonna take care of all of them. And maybe to your point, the compromise is a au pair, right? Maybe daycare is not enough, right? But I will say to the au pair thing, that still doesn't take away the fact that you still gotta be a mom 24/7. But with Brandon, it seems like Brandon is definitely part of that. Hey, if I'm paying all the bills and taking care of you, and whatever money you make is your fun money and things of that nature, then I don't want to wash clothes. I don't want to come home and discipline the kids. I don't want to basically, if I'm leading all day at work, I don't want to lead at home. And to me, I hear some people say that, but I'm like, that's not a realistic position in my position.
But I think that it depends on your relationship. Like, I think, number one, like, if leading or leadership is a struggle in their marriage, every marriage has different struggles. So I'm not saying that to say like, oh, because they have a leadership struggle, like they're not going to make it. Yeah. Like, I just feel like, everyone has different struggles, and their particular one is getting Brandon to lead in the home. And I think that with Christina, if, they're trying to work out whatever the structure is in the house and all that type of stuff, then Brandon does need to step up to the plate and be the one to be a little bit more of an enforcer. But if he's not that person, and they figure out, who he is as a person and what his limitations are, then they have to navigate it as a family, Yeah. Because I think at a certain point, people are who they are. So y'all got to figure out another way.
Hey, listen, you should heard his mama say, listen, this who he is. Yeah. Get with it or get lost, basically. And and truth be told, I think as long as Christina, and that's the thing about it, Christina was without him living in the house and things of that nature. And I think that did something to Brandon that he didn't realize, like, what could happen. Like, oh, I was the one paying all the bills, and I was the one basically, like, I thought I was needed in the house because, I'm the man and I pay the bills. But once they start living life and I start getting new routines without you, then all of a sudden you got to come in and drop your clothes in the middle of the floor, be like, hey, guys, daddy's home. And that's why I'm like, I hope he actually sees, like, hey, at the end of the day, people do have a sink or swim mentality. And guess what? I have no problem swimming with you. But if you want to leave me, or if you don't want to leave, I'm not going to sink. Yeah. I'm going to find a way. You know what I'm saying? Now, this leads me to Man Movement Anthony and his wife, Dr. LaToya. Yes. Right? You gave me a good theory yesterday, Blair.
Oh, what's that?
It was, I don't remember it. But actually, no, I do remember it, but I don't want to say it wrong, right? Okay. Maybe I could jog your memory, right? Okay. Let's go off of the character of Anthony, of what we've seen, right? Anthony obviously wants to be the leader of the cast. obviously. He wants to be the leader wherever he's in. He wants to be the center of attention wherever room he walks in. He wants to be important. He wants to put on these suits. He wants to walk around blocks. He wants to basically be the one that be like, I got more money than you. I got more money than you.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Okay, thank you. See, I was basically things like that.
Yeah.
And I think when you gave me this theory, I was like, I think you hit the nail on the head. What is this theory that we go brainstorm about?
Yeah, the fact that number one, and I don't want to say this completely came from me, because I'll be online looking and reading stuff and stuff like that. So it did come across that somebody was saying that, well, Dr. LaToya, she is a doctor, she is a preacher's kid, and she's probably very highly regarded in their circles and in their community. And Anthony, although he is the husband of Dr. LaToya, he's probably not looked at in high regard as much as she is. And I think a part of that, he kind of overcompensates for trying to be important or being respected, because Dr. LaToya doesn't have to try hard to be respected because of the title that she has and the doctor, family that she was born into. And her dad, she's a PK. So like in the church, she's probably looked at a certain way and people, hold her in high regard. So I think that with Anthony, in every situation and everything he comes across, like I think is trying to get that type of respect that Dr. LaToya gets just innately. And it may not just be because of her, like it may be partially a little bit of like jealousy or something like that, of wanting that for himself. But I think a big part of it too, it just might be that he lacks some type of like security in himself to where he needs it externally, to the point to where he might prop himself up in front of the kids so that way he can get that validation from them. So
now let me give Anthony a little bail to get out of jail, right? When it came to Dr. LaToya's wine business and things like that, which created her wine, who funded her the money to start that? Anthony did, right? When Anthony wanted to go after his dream and basically work on Marvel and go to Atlanta and things like that, Dr. LaToya had a problem with him being away from the family for that long, right? That made him basically have to come back, and he's like, when would it ever be about me? Right? So I can see his POV from there, but I think because of that POV, because of what he's going through, because he does so much, I think he's like, the level of things that I do does not match the level of respect that I get. Because I'm over here fronting your wine business. I'm over here taking care of the family as well. Like you're working all these hours and things of that nature, and yet your father and all them got to talk to me, and then I'm crying on a boat. You get what I'm saying? Y'all should watch it. I tell you, I watch every episode, right? And I feel like everybody is just looking at you as the Dr. LaToya. But whole time, I'm the one keeping everything together, right? And my thing is, you can't view it that way, brother. You can't make an enemy of the person that you're helping or of the help. You get what I'm saying? Even though I may do this or like I may do that or like I may do this, I can't now view my helpmate as someone like, you know what, I do more of you, and that's why, you know what, me and the boys, it's a boys club, and I'm kind of stoking the flame of kind of isolating you and kind of making you the enemy of. And
hopefully he's not doing that.
I hope he's not, but it looks that way, right? Because I do find it, one thing I do not, which is a pet peeve, is if I'm talking to you, right, I don't want nobody else to answer. Right. And somebody did point out, and I watched it again because that's why I wanted to make sure it was correct. If I'm talking to my children, because these are my children too, you don't know them more because you are around, or basically not know them more, but you don't have ownership of them more because I'm working and you may be there to pick them up and things like that. If I'm asking them a question and then you pipe in and say, because you be on them, I don't like that type of conversation and things like that. Because we on the same team right here. So I would like to say that I hope he's not stoking the flame, but it looks that way to me. But the only reason why it looks that way to me is because I think he wants to be viewed as dad is the best. Anthony's the best. And it kind of shows in his other relationships outside of the relationship he had with his kids and wife, in my opinion. And
the reason that, I kind of have that perception of Anthony is just that when you're working hard, doing the work, and being the person that you are, it shows. You don't have to say it. And I think Anthony does a lot of self-talk in front of us. I think that, when you're at home in your mirror trying to hype yourself up, absolutely. But doing that in public and saying how great you are, how such a boss you are, and all that type of stuff, it just looks desperate. and sad a little bit. Like, it's just like, if you're a boss, then you're going to be a boss, and it goes without saying. So,
but I will say this though. Can I give him just a little bell to get him out of jail?
Absolutely.
Dr. LaToya, I think, truth be told, if he is doing a lot and he feel like the level of respect that he's getting doesn't match the level of output or input that he's doing, I think that may come from Dr. LaToya, right? Someone asked me, because, you know, I talk about the show with people and stuff like that. They said, is Dr. LaToya like way older than Anthony? Because it comes off as if she's like basically not like a cougar, but as if like the age gap is bigger than what we thought. And I said, I don't even know if she's older than Anthony, but it does come off as if she's very stern, right? Listen here, I wasn't a fan of Dr. LaToya once she got to that Kolby versus Christina mess and things like that, because it just seemed like she was just stirring the pot. She was picking sides. She wasn't making no sense. But there is a certain seriousness that she have that I'm like, I wonder if Anthony is being, what's the word? Is he getting words of affirmation from his wife? Because Anthony comes off as the type of person of, what is your love language? And I think a lot of guys want to automatically go to physical touch.
Yeah.
Let me touch your booty. You know what I'm saying? But I think Anthony needs words of affirmation. Mm-hmm. I think he's the type of person that needs a thank you. He needs a I appreciate you. And I go back to when he really thought he was about to get his big break with Marvel, and he was working with Marvel, and during that time, his stumbling block was his wife. Mm-hmm. I don't think he can let that go, because to him, he's like, I'm doing this for us. I'm doing this for me as well. Mm-hmm. And during that time, I did not feel supported. That was his words on the boat when he was crying.
Yeah.
He's like, I did not feel supported. So I think there's something to, hey, maybe I am seeking this kind of outside validation to where the community look at this man movement, and maybe I get this validation from my friends as being the top dog and the big dog and things of that nature. Because at home, you know, you work, and I'm not getting the words of affirmation from you that much. Mm-hmm. I think that can also be a play, and also the motivation of why he's like, you know what, I may not get it from you, but I'm gonna get it from my boys. Yeah. That's why when she was walking them outside to that private bowling truck where they could have went publicly, she said, you know, mommy is the best. And they were like, no, daddy does a lot.
Yeah.
Daddy's the best. And I'm like, oh, he's training them boys. I say he's training them to wear things like that.
But I agree with you in the sense that you want to make sure that you're filling up your partner's love cup.
Yeah,
you know, if there are certain things that they need to feel loved and to feel appreciated, then you do need to be in tune to that and be willing to listen and be able to provide that to your partner. Mm-hmm. I always believe that your happiness does come from yourself. So they can't be the one to, make you feel great about yourself or to really kind of like heal any type of insecurity, so to speak. But you can definitely be a part of the healing. You know what I'm saying? And I think that Dr. LaToya, I think she does a good job with that. I feel like, she allows him to speak. She doesn't interrupt him. She doesn't tell him to calm down. She doesn't, emasculate him in any type of way, even when he is doing a lot.
Especially to women too. Yeah. That's another thing too. Anthony needs to pull back on that.
Yeah. And I think that, when it comes to Dr. LaToya, she allows him to have his man role, even when on the outside it looks like he's acting like a little boy sometimes. A
lot of times.
Yeah. And so I think that she does a good job of that within her relationship, but I think it's something within Anthony to where it seems like it's never enough validation.
And when it's not enough, that means it's you is the shortage.
Right.
It's not me. Mm-hmm. Listen here, I feel like we gave y'all another review. This was supposed to be 15 to 20 minutes, but listen here, I think there's going to be a lot of depth to this cast. I think we're so used to Huntsville and whatever drama with Melody's not going to be back next season, y'all, but with Marcel and the whole Marcel, I think we're so used to drama that when we see this, we watching it with the eye of it's not what it is. But I think there's a mature type of depth to it that I think we gonna get a lot of deep dives in this. But I want y'all to subscribe, share, comment. What do y'all think about the whole Brandon and Christina, the whole Anthony and Dr. LaToya, and the whole Kolby and Russell? This is not gonna be the last time we gonna see Kolby cry about drowning, taking care of the kids, right? And this is not gonna be my last time giving my opinion about it, because I do think there is something to, and like I said, it's not a gender war, of the guy feeling like, hey man, it gets hard for me too, and I can't opt out. I need you to toughen up. And there is a strength in toughening up. One thing I do not like to hear, though, and someone corrected me, not this season, but somebody corrected me in another show, which I agree with, right? I understand a lot of people like to say she's married, but she's single, or she's married, but she's a single parent. And somebody said that kind of takes away the fact that, hey, the ones who are actually single parents, the one that's actually making things work, I go to work every day and I pick up these kids, and especially when kids get older, especially if they're years apart, one is in middle school and one is in high school, and I'm doing it all by myself. Respect, right?
Yeah, respect single parent.
Exactly, right? I'm not going to basically put on the weight of a single parent on a married woman.
Yeah.
Dude, you know what needs to happen, Kolby? Y'all need to talk.
Right.
Because you have the help. And the help is not helping, but that doesn't take away the fact that, hey, you're married and the help is there compared to, you know, single parents, mothers and fathers and things of that nature. So I want to give the respect. And Kolby is not a single parent. She's not. She's rounding with what they agreed on, and they need to re-talk.
Yeah, regroup.
Yeah, but she's not a single parent.
Yeah.
Anything else?
That's it.
Subscribe, like, share, comment, all the above. We see y'all.
Bye.